All right. Today is Friday, May 15th, 2026. And this was my session today. Um, I wanted to break down some of the things that I was looking for while trading today, because I think today was exceptional. And I want to get some more repetitions by reviewing these trades. And more importantly, by kind of diving into what I was seeing second by second, so that I can keep replicating this in the future. Uh, And recording these videos seems to be the best way to do that. So, 100% win rate today across 3 trades. Um, Average winning trade was 8.7 ticks. You can see here I had a 9 tick winner, 8 tick winner, and a 9 tick winner. Um, let's throw on the MAE and MFE real quick. So a little bit of MAE here. Trades seem to pull back on me a few ticks. So 4 tick drawdown, uh, 2 tick, or sorry, 4 tick drawdown, 5 tick drawdown. Uh, Kind of hard for me to see what these are. So if this was, anyways, you can kind of see the picture. Each trade pulled back on me a healthy amount. I wouldn't say that's anything to be concerned about. In fact, I seem to really like it when trades come back against me a little bit, because it adds more confirmation onto the trade. And it also extends my trade duration, which I like. You can see here I had one trade that was 1 second trade duration, which I don't really like. I would like these trades to be more along like that 10-second trade duration, just because I know that's what a lot of prop firms like to see in their trader history. But anyways, let's dive into these trades. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm going to mute the audio, and we're gonna slow this playback speed down. Let's go to like 0.75 for now. So what do I like about this trade? You can see we are downtrending here. A lot of the volume above us is going to be offers. Um, However, it is a really nice reclaim. And let's back up a few seconds so that we can see how price is turning around here. Just to be clear, this is my first trade, right? 25 minutes in, 25 minutes in. Okay. So this is only my first trade. I'm not taking any longs here because we are solid red on the bid, which means that sellers are positioned here. This is theoretically open interest on this third column. So there are 48 ticks of sellers with open interest, 60 ticks of sellers with open interest. This is the big one to watch down here. You can see a lot of sellers coming right here. So 57 plus 83. There's 140 lots of sellers down there. And as we trade higher, you can see them start to fade away. And that's because they're turning into buyers up here. Um, in theory, it's not necessarily one trader that's turning into buyers. It's those positions that are down there. They are now buyers and they're trying to get out of this position, which is absorption. So now you can see this has turned into all buying. Again, I don't really want to go long right away because these early buyers, they could get squeezed. We could hammer down. And in fact, I see us bouncing off of a high note of sellers right here. There could potentially be a short here. But the reason I'm not short biased is because of the massive reclaim. It's really hard to see on this left wander. Um, but there is about 5 points, sorry, 15 points of reclaim above us. And we know that price likes to take back those reclaims. So we let it play a little bit more. It pulls back and it's starting to look like a continuation down here. And that's the defense. So um, I might even go ahead and screenshot this as an example. So let's screenshot this real quick. Sellers trapped. Let's put that in caps lock. Sellers trapped. Potentially, potentially these sellers are trapped. Reclaim above. Okay. What I might do is I might drag this over here so that I can apply the screenshots, paste and upload. All right, let's let it play for a few more seconds. So it looks like we could be getting a continuation low, but now those trapped sellers are now turning into buyers. They are now getting squeezed. I don't want to go long on the first sign of buyers getting squeezed because I know that these buyers, it goes both ways. Those sellers got squeezed to the upside on all that buying. Those buyers could now get squeezed to the downside. It works both ways. I need to see much more confirmation than that. We come down and revisit. Now this is where I'm starting to get a little bit interested because now we've retested this area once and we're putting in more buying. So let's go ahead and screenshot that. These sellers were squeezed. And now we've got a pretty nice block of buying. I'll highlight these two levels right here. Buyers are starting to defend. That doesn't mean they're going to defend this area quite yet. That's why I'm not going long, is because they're starting to show up, but that doesn't mean that they're going to keep defending this area. They could get squeezed to the downside. Paste that screenshot in there. And let's let it play. All right, so now I put the order in because now we're starting to show a trajectory. We're getting higher lows and higher highs. This thing is kind of starting to look like it wants to reverse. My entry, 46.75, is based on the fact that we're going to defend these buyers and we're not going to trade lower than that. We might shimmy back and test it again for the second test. I don't really want the first test because we're in a downtrend. If we were uptrending the first test, I will usually place an order, but we're downtrending. I want to see 2 or more tests of this area. Nice trajectory. I keep the order open for a pullback. I chase it by 1 tick, so now I'm filled at 47. And then let's do another screenshot. I'll highlight both of these just so my execution on the micro. Second retest. These buyers should defend. And this is my entry here. My entry. Now, price trades below this level, trade is invalid. So I can afford a tight stop here. It's only 6 ticks. We have a really wide price range here. My stop is only 6 ticks. But it's below this big order block. My stop is at 45. The order block is at 45.50. So if it trades below, those buyers are now going to turn into sellers. But the reason I'm long here is because I am hypothesizing that more buyers are going to step in to defend this area. Let's let it play. You can see on the furthest right column, this is the most recent delta. You can also see it on the recent market orders. Buyers are defending this area. You get a really nice move up. I'm going to take the microstructure high right there. And exit at structure high. Entry, my exit. And that's pretty much it. Into the reclaim. Reclaim assisted. We get nice little, I should highlight these. We're making higher lows. We're also making higher highs. Low, low, high, higher high. And that's pretty much it. So let's recap with the screenshots. This is when I'm stalking the entry, but I'm still short biased. There has not been a reason for me to long quite yet. Reclaim above, sellers are trapped down here. I see a big seller come in. Buyers starting to defend, and that big seller is now flat. He's been squeezed. Second retest, so you can see price traded up, retested once, price is trading up, it's retesting twice. Both times we've defended this area. I'm long slightly above with my stop loss slightly below. And then on the third one, we can see the structure, higher lows and higher highs. And the most recent orders on the delta are all buyers. They want to defend this area. And I get a nice little 8-tick trade or 9-tick trade out of it. All right, next trade. Actually, let me just see what the timestamp. 27:52. Move this back over here. 27:52. All right, same thing. We are downtrending. Today was a day where I was technically against the trend. But what I like about these is every time we trade lower and we're on a really violent reclaim, we're not grinding low. If we're grinding low, I do not want to be against the trend, but we're we're shooting low. We're putting in these really sharp, volatile moves to the downside. Um, and we usually get really good bounces off of those areas. So let's go ahead and watch. So you can see here what happened. Let's back up. So we're all red heading down into this area, right? Super aggressive downtrend. They're pretty thin. These are pretty thin offers heading down into the lows. What do you see happening down here? Buyers are starting to defend, but I don't want to go long here because I want to see buyers holding. So hypothetically, if I went long here at 37, it's going to suck right back on me. I need to see confirmation. I want to see it hold over a longer period of time. So maybe what I might do is I might back it up here. Take our first screenshot. Pretty thin offers on the way down. Price is moving very fast. Lots of reclaim above. Buyers are peaking interest, are still feeling to hold an auction. So at this point, buyers are still losing. They're still heading lower. But keep this level in mind: 36.50, 36.75. All right, let's paste that screenshot in. Let's fast forward a little bit. So again, you can see buyers are still pretty thin down here, but there is a 40 lot, there is a 23 lot seller, a 26 lot down here, and they are about to get absorbed. So boom, big shove up, more sellers trying to defend this area. So sellers down here got absorbed. Large seller trying to defend. An auction may occur here. So I'm interested in this area because there's an auction going on. There were big buyers trying to defend. Now there's big sellers trying to defend. Chances are either more big buyers or more big sellers are going to step in and try to win an auction at this level. Looks like sellers are winning. Trade lower. But guess what we don't do? We don't put in a lower low, or at least I don't think so. Yeah, buyers are now starting to step up in a pretty big way here. We do touch the lows. That's my bad. Now we're coming back up into this 36 area that was important before, and there's big buyers positioning here. So, um, V flush, lows, sellers fail to step in, change in character. This seller is flat, absorbed. So that big seller got absorbed. We V-flushed the lows, but we failed to attract any more selling. So sellers are not interested in this area anymore. In fact, buyers are now super interested in this area. We've got a 156 lot and a 105 lot, even a 77 lot on top of each other. So 350 lots roughly of buyers down here. And this is where I make my entry. My entry. Price trades any lower trade is invalid. So my stop's pretty tight. I do think it would be justified to extend it a few more ticks, maybe 9 or 10 tick stop, just that I'm defending the bottom here. But in all honesty, if we trade any lower than like this 35 level, sometimes they do overshoot it a bit and then come up and defend it. But if we trade lower than that, then I don't want to be in this trade. Worth saying to reclaim above. I know from memory this area was thin. Remember from the first screenshot, all these orders that were here were very light orders, like 10 lot, 20 lot. So let's see how the trade works out. That's my entry right there. Pulls back on me a few ticks. But buyers are still interested. You can see the most recent orders are very long biased. And I take it just a couple ticks past the structure high. Price overshoots my entry, but ultimately defends. Even more buying here and exit 2 ticks above structure. I do think if memory serves me, this does continue to run upwards. But I could care less, honestly. This is a really good trade. Maybe could have held a partial because we don't really have any upside targets, which does mean this could potentially be a hold. And theoretically, let's say I'm trading 6 lots of micros. Let's say I took 4 lots off here and held 2. The only exit signal I would want to see is aggressive orders coming in. So maybe that 101 lot at 39.50, I may have exited there. But it was super fast, so there's a chance I could still be in this. Let's watch for big orders here. Still going. And I would flat key it there. So it would probably come back and I would still probably get 38.50 or something like that. Um, but it just does go to show that this could potentially be a hold higher. For shits and giggles, does it trade higher? Yes, it does. So maybe I would realistically at a for sure 100% sell signal probably would have been 41.25 right here when that big seller came in. So let's recap with the screenshots. Huge move down. I am short biased right now, but I also know that these really sharp reclaims like to retrace really violently. So there's opportunities for longs here. Again, if we're grinding steadily down, I don't want the long. But if we're putting these really sharp moves down, I know the sharp moves up are often offer really good risk reward. So thin offers on the way down. You can see like a 34 is the highest we possibly have up here. Otherwise, it's just no man's land. Nobody has really traded here. Buyers starting to show interest. So this is when I first start looking at this level. I'm like, okay, they're starting to peek around. They're taking a peek, dipping their toes in the water. But I'm not gonna long on the first sign of buying. Sellers down here got absorbed, so fresh selling came in, and then they instantly turned into buyers. A large seller trying to defend, which means that this is kind of an auction area. So something's going on here at this 36 to 37 level. Buyers or sellers are going to try to defend this level. And it's buying because this big seller got absorbed. He's no longer in the market because theoretically this third column here is open interest and he is no longer in the market. He probably bailed somewhere around here. Speaking of which, we got big buying starting to show up. 77, 156, 105. Buyers are starting to win this auction. Everything above us is clear. All those sellers got absorbed. They're no longer part of the market. Big reclaim above. I make my entry on the retest. Different from the last one where we came up, we retested, we went up, and then we retested again. That's where my entry was. This time, my entry signal was kind of the fact that we made a new low by 2 ticks, but sellers didn't show up. They instantly retraced back up and got absorbed. So this is technically a retest. We don't have the higher high, higher low structure, but we do have a failed low. We made a new low. We failed to attract selling. I think this could trade upwards. So I make my entry at 36. And this is the result. More buying stepped in here. 120 lot, 158 lot, 114 lot. We do come back and retest my entry by a few ticks, and it holds. More buyers jump in, and I take the tick off, or I take the trade off slightly above the microstructure high. In hindsight, I do think I could have held this a little bit more because we still have so much reclaim above us. But as far as my risk to reward is concerned, I risked 6 ticks and I made 9 ticks. That is, or 8 ticks, sorry. That is a really good trade, in my opinion. So let's go to the next trade. 2902. Oh, this is just a couple seconds later. Honestly, if I that the next trade is already playing out on my screen. Let's rewind a little bit. These trades were pretty quick succession after each other. So we are taking back this reclaim, but we put in another really sharp move down. I don't want to go long here. In theory, there is an 87 lot down here that I could lean into, but that's not very big compared to an 82 lot, a 70 lot, 60 lot, 58 lot, 65 lot. Like sellers are winning here, at least right now, and we'll quickly see in a second that changes. Boom. So in a fraction of a second, that all gets filled in. So now I am starting to think, okay, there could potentially be a long here. But I need levels to set up because this move up, let's rewind a few seconds. This move up is pretty thin I mean, we have a good defense here. That's where my original trade was. But as we trade higher, we're pretty thin on the buys. Like this is all super thin. Maybe 38 is a good level to defend. Um, but I want to see a solid bright blue level where buyers are clearly defending. So if we fast forward a few seconds, a lot of those sellers that were right here got absorbed. And we are starting to kind of put in an auction right here. So maybe what I might do is I'll freeze frame right here, print screen. Do we are starting to take reclaim back. So big selling on a very sharp move down. Um, Pretty balanced bids below. So we're kind of in the middle of an auction. There's big selling above us and pretty big sell buying below us. But I don't want to go long here because sellers could absolutely obliterate with this momentum. This does look like momentum right here. They could obliterate those buyers down below us. Let it play for a few seconds. And now a lot of those sellers have now turned into buyers. They've gone flat. I do want to let it play for a few more seconds just so I can see the auction starting to set up. Beautiful. So all the selling that was here have flipped bid. Sellers failed to push lower. So they tried to push back down and failed, and now buyers are starting to redefend this 39.40 area. So I can see that there's an auction developing here. There are some pretty heavy buyers starting to present themselves. Wait for a little bit more confirmation. We've retested this area quite a few times now. This is the third or fourth retest of the area. And now we're starting to make a sign of higher highs. So I think in a second, I'm going to pull the trigger and put a trade on. Yeah, there it is. I'll wait for the actual fill though. All right, 39.75. Beautiful. All right, square. This has turned into a very thick bid area. Buyers are defending. We're also starting to get this very subtle microstructure. Higher low, higher high. The sellers that were here are flat. Entry retest. Entry on retest. So you can see we're starting to come out of this area, but I don't go long until we pull back. I want that slip favor. I don't want to go long up here at like 40, 41. I want to wait until we pull back into that area to see them defend again. And they are. We pull back. My entry's 39.75. I've got pretty clear risk below. I am kind of leaning on some buyer's defense though. So let me highlight that. And leaning on these for bids as stop loss. So trade is invalid if we go any lower. All right, paste that in. Let's let it play. This one was very quick. I think that was a flat key, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see where my cursor is. Yeah, that was a flat key. Sometimes you do have to flat key because this big seller stepped in. I did not want to stick around to find out if he was going to push the market back lower. I don't really want to hang out. He could get squeezed. I mean, there is a potential that this there could be a strategy where I take a partial off here with the intent to see if he gets squeezed. I think he does, you know, in all honesty. But for the sake of one entry, one exit, I don't want to hold past this guy. This level is still thick, but a lot of buyers have gone flat. So the math of this indicator is that when a big order comes in, it's going to subtract it from the last area of big orders. So a lot of the big buyers that were here have exited on this move up, and so have I. And that's pretty much it, honestly. I don't see any other rationale for this trade. As soon as a big buyer comes in, I want to get out, or a big seller comes in, I want to get out of the trade. My exit. Yeah, I'm not going to over rationalize it. That is definitely an exit signal. So paste that in there. Let's recap. So very sharp move down on a lot of really big selling. I'm short biased. I think they're By short bias, I don't mean that I'm looking for a short. I just mean that I do not want a long right now. This does not look like a good long trade. However, we do still have a lot of reclaim above us, and there is a nice defended area down there at 38. Those sellers flip long. Now there is an auction going on here at 39.40. Buyers may want to try and defend. They also failed to trade any lower, so they came down, tested this area here, which again could theoretically be a trade if you put in a bid at 38.50. But that's still such an aggressive trade. I want to wait for more confirmation before I take trades. And then this is kind of where the trade sets up is we test this area twice. Both times we defend it. We make a higher high. We come back and retest this area where it's now starting to get super thick. 80 lot, 127 lot, 89 lot, 117 lot, 90 lot. That is a very heavily defended area with another kind of cushion below us at 38. All the sellers above us have since gone flat, so technically there's a vacuum up there. We could trade super aggressively into that area. Invalidation level is kind of 38. My stop loss is at 38.25, which is a little tight, but again, it's kind of like if we're trending up, I want to get filled and I want to see the trade go immediately. I'm pretty comfortable with a 38.25 stop. And then finally, big seller comes in, 241 lot seller comes in, and that's my sign to get out. And that's why I flat the trade so quick. I also I kind of want to get out of a trade if it shoots really fast in one direction so quick. Um, Sometimes that's a bad habit because it could keep running further, but at the same time, we just had a pretty nasty order flow event occur here, and I don't want to stick around to find out. So, pretty simple explanation of my exit. Let's see if it could have ran further, just for shits and giggles. We come back and retest that big seller. It would have came back and tested my entry, and now a lot of those buyers are gone. The trade would have lost, so that was a good exit. Sometimes when a big seller shows up like that, it's a reversal, contrary to what you might think. So those are my three trades. Those are my three um, funded account trades. You can see I went on to drill later, and I want to look at a little bit of these because these 300% win rate trades are kind of cherry picked because they work instantly. But you can see in my drills, I do run into a couple of losing trades. So worth reviewing those. Let's kind of take it step by step with these though. Mute the audio. Again, downtrending, but we've put in a really nice defense down here with big buying. I get into the trade a couple ticks above. It almost touches my stop loss. Sometimes that's just happens to be luck. And we shoot up. I'm looking at 34.75 for an exit. I get 35 out of it. Pretty simple trade. When I took the entry, everything above us was super thin. And I think it does remain super thin. Yeah, so there's the entry. We're still super thin above. I don't like that a lot of these buyers flipped to selling, but then at the very last second, you can see an 88 lot and a 62 lot bid hit there, and that kind of saves my trade. So this one was kind of lucky. It was a good setup, but could have been a little dangerous. This looks like a try two of the exact same area. These buyers down here are still holding. We're trending upwards, higher highs, higher lows. I think I take an entry here, 33.25. And more buyers are stepping in. We're thin above. 34.75 is where I want to exit this trade. And I get it. Nice, easy, smooth trade there. This one's a loss. This is my first loss of the day. Let's see what happens. Right away, I can kind of see what I did wrong here. This uptrend is super sharp. We're really moving at a quick velocity here. And you can see some high nodes for me to lean on, but below it is super thin. And what I've noticed happens is sometimes we come down and test those high nodes, and if it's thin below us, what else is propping it up? There's not a lot propping it up. It's very top heavy, and it could just shoot downwards. And I think that's what actually happens. So I place the order 39 even. I get a few ticks of profit, but then it starts accepting lower. More sellers come in, and it hits my stop. So just as I predicted, super thin area below us, it's going to come and take me out. I get a 12 tick win a couple seconds later. This is technically the same setup, but just with a much more conservative entry. So watch as it comes down. We have another really heavily defended area down here at 33.25. And now look above us. It is super thin all the way up here. So we're in a slip range of market. We put in thin moves up, we put in thin moves down. And chances are we're going to put in another thin move up. And that's exactly what happens. So I believe my entry is a little aggressive here. I would prefer to see it come down and touch like 33.50. But given the fact that we're in high VIX, I kind of have to stretch what I'm doing. I should be stretching my stop loss. I think I should have been trading with a 10 tick stop loss today. Um, but that also means that I need to capture more reward. And my average win today was 8 or 9 ticks. So if my stop loss is 10 ticks and my average win is only 8 or 9 ticks, then I'm in trouble. Um, I should be trying to push these trades a little further. We do put in a nice 72 lot buyer at 34.50. I think that's what my entry is going to be. Yeah, so I get 35. Almost takes my stop. It touches it by 1 tick, but doesn't quite execute. And that just goes to show that this was a pretty aggressive entry. But that being said, the setup looks awesome. We're so thin above us. I think I target 38.50, the next level of selling, and I get 38 out of it. So a nice 12 tick winner. Next trade is a loss. Looks like my stop loss hits. And sometimes you just have good losers. Sometimes you take a trade that looks good and it ends up losing, and that's fine. And this is kind of looking like it. I don't really see anything wrong with this. The one thing I might critique myself on is that there's some trapped buyers above us. There's not a lot, 32, 20 lot, 25 lot. But that does kind of factor in because now those buyers might be looking to sell down here. But even then, even considering that, I do think this is a really good trade. We have a nice thick area down here from 32 to 34. It's pretty thin above us. I might only get 3 or 4 ticks out of this. Like my entry's at 33.25. I might take this off at 34.50. Just because again, those trapped buyers up there might run into trouble. And it doesn't work. It comes down, it takes my stop, which is fine. Well, maybe it doesn't. No, there it goes. Takes my stop. Good trade. I think this was a good loss. I honestly can't critique much on this one. One pattern I am starting to notice in my drills, though. Oh, this is actually a short trade. I was about to say I don't think I should be long in here because we're in a downtrend, but this is actually a short trade, which I think is valid. I see a level up there at 27 that I might want. Let's that entry. That entry was super aggressive. Yeah, I didn't like that. So I think I'm going short here off of this fresh 25 lot sell. I think that's way too aggressive. I should have been trying the 26.75 short. So let's, for the sake of the review, let's pretend I went short at 26.75 with a 5 tick stop. Would have worked for a few ticks. And I actually do try to it at 26.50. And it works for a few ticks. I should be taking it off here at 25.50 for a 4 tick win because we have a big buyer down here. but I think I failed to do that, and I take a loss on this trade, unfortunately. Oh, maybe not. All right, so we kind of reviewed two trades at once there. First entry, super aggressive. I did not like that trade at all. The more conservative entry would have been at 2650, which I do actually enter on a try two of this trade, and it works, and I get a nice win out of it. So good short example. It's kind of funny. When I first looked at this chart, I thought it was a long, and I was like, what am I doing going long here? Because this does not look like a long setup, but it's actually a really good short setup. And I do trade it somewhat effectively. So I take a 5-tick loss and an 8-tick win. So I made 3 ticks off of that trade total. Next trade is also a short, and it is a loser. So entry is at 26 even short. Again, I still think that's too aggressive. I should be waiting until 26.75, which 3 ticks doesn't sound like that much of a difference, but I think in this context, it does make a really big difference. Other things I don't really like about this trade, it's not super thin below us. We have a 69 lot buyer, a 53 lot buyer, a 70 lot buyer down here. It's pretty thick, and there's a good chance this could shoot upwards, especially with the amount of reclaim we have on the left side. So I'm not crazy about this trade. I don't think it was a great one. Yeah, and it comes up and takes my stop. Even here, this would be my more conservative entry. I still don't think it's worth an entry because we're so thick down below us. This has turned into a 122 lot buyer. For the sake of review, let's pretend I did go short here at 26.75. And yeah, it would have been a loss. So way too thick below me to be taking a short there. Next trade is a long. It's an 8-tick win. Pretty good trade. I can see the 196 lot at 32 even. I'm going to try and get 3250, 2 ticks above. And we're pretty thick below. We've got a 79 lot, a 68 lot, 67 lot. So maybe not an A plus setup, but I could see this working, and in hindsight, it does. There's the fill, retest to 32, more order step in. It's now a 200 lot. And I think I would like to try and hold this one. It looks like I am trying to hold it. So I'm watching for a big order to come in on the tape for me to take this trade off. Comes back on me. This one actually, is this a loss? No, it's a win. So it does end up going. Second retest, attract more buying. Push through the highs, but now there's big orders coming out, so I'm going to flat key it. This was the big order here. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer or a seller because buyers can be trapped. A big order came in at 35, so I tried to get out there. 2 ticks of slippage. Next trade is a loss. It's also a long. It looks like I want a retest of 35. So I go long at 35.75. However, what's above us? We're pretty thick up there. 52 lot, 62 lot, 57 lot, a 77 lot trapped buyer, an 80 lot trapped buyer. So while there is a really good defense down here, we're still super thick above us. And the trade doesn't really work out that well. And I end up taking a loss on this one. I know I had a trade today where it worked initially, but this was not it. It just pukes against me. So I need to be super careful moving forward, making sure that it's thin, super thin above me. This looks like a try two, and it's also a loss. So I never attempt to trade more than twice. This one is a little bit more conservative. There's a much thicker area down here at 33. It's also pretty thin above us. I personally, I think I should wait until we come back above 35 because it's still a trapped buyer. There's still a big trapped buyer up there at 35. And I think that's why this trade loses, is because all these buyers above us are now turning into sellers. I think this is the trade that works initially, but then it comes back against me. Yeah, and now there's more trapped buyers up there. I should be taking it off here at 35 because that is a big trapped seller. If anything, I should have a resting order at 36.25. That is the last possible area I could see hitting. Let's see if it hits. Yeah, it touches by one tick and then immediately comes back on me. So this was the trade that worked. I got 8 or 9 ticks out of it, but then it comes back on me. Um, and that's obvious. I should have taken this trade off much sooner because you can see how thick it is above me. So even this 33.75 lot or 33.75 entry is pretty aggressive considering how thick we are up there. I could get a point out of it. If I put an order in right now at 35, that's a 5 tick winner. Even if I wanted to hold to 36, like that's a 2 point winner. That's a 9 tick winner that I could have gotten had I played the expected value of this trade properly. Because the expected value is super low when it's so thick above you that you should be taking ticks, not holding as long as I did. Next trade is a winner to the long side. Decent defense here, but it's pretty aggressive going long here. I don't think I like this trade very much because there's a 46 and a 55, which is decent. But up here, we have a 78 lot buyer that's trapped. He could turn into danger. We also have a 44 lot seller above us. We're kind of grinding downwards. I'm not crazy about this trade. Maybe on the retest, because now we're at 67 and 60, and now that seller above us is gone. Now I think there would be a much better trade here. Maybe put an order in at 31 and see if it hits. I think it's kind of lucky that this trade worked because I don't think it was great. Sometimes you need luck. Sometimes you take crappy trades and they work because of luck. And yeah, I won't say no to 11 ticks, but still important for the sake of review. This is the last trade, and it also seems to be a winner. I like it. I don't hate this trade. We've got 184 lot at 35 with 143, 106 supporting it. And then right below it, I've got a 3350, 177 lot. It's super thin below us. My stop loss is 3350, and that's a good thing because if we even touch 3350, we could suck right low because there's a vacuum down there. But I don't hate it. There's one good area and then another area acts as a cushion. So I go long at 35. 100 lot buy comes in and I take it off at 37. So decent trade. I wouldn't say that's A plus by any means, but probably a B or a C grade. And that's where I'm sitting. So not only is this a review of my trading session, but I also wanted this to kind of be a case study for these setups, gap jump. So I wanted to make sure that we have a good playbook, lots of screenshots, and a good understanding of why I took these trades and why they worked so well, so that I can replicate them again in the future. So that's where I'm sitting. I'm probably going to try and playbook the trades I take next week and do the same, but I'll cut it here for now.